Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Legler. I'm the coordinator of the It's Your Choice program that's been in the middle schools during this school year. As I mentioned, it's great to see so many faces out, young faces particularly, also parents and staff and volunteers. Could I ask the Teen Summit Committee just to give you a wave, and if everyone would just give them a round of applause, because they have worked long and hard for many months. So, wave, girls. So at this point, I'm very pleased to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Miss Gina Greenlee. I've got a few comments I'd like to make. Did everyone keep your ribbons or threads? Okay. Well, hold on to your threads. Gina Greenlee, our keynote speaker this morning, will be using those threads as she shares with you some of the choices she made as a young teen and how those choices influence her life today. Gina is a very accomplished person. She's an author. She's an artist. She's a world traveler who has visited 6 out of the 7 continents, and we'll have to ask her if she has plans to visit that 7th one yet. In fact, in the year 2000, she took a solo trip all by her lonesome around the world, fulfilling a life-held dream. Please join me in giving a very, very warm welcome for Gina Greenlee.
In 1974, I was 14 years old. I was living in New York City on the island of Manhattan, where I'm from. And in June of that year, I was scheduled to take the Regents. The Regents, some people from New York, the Regents are New York State's version of the FCATs. That year, I was scheduled to take 2 exams. One in 9th grade social studies, and the other in 9th grade math. Now, the social studies was not going to be a big problem. It wasn't my favorite subject. I didn't put too much effort into it, but I fully expected to pass. But math, that was another story. Whether or not I passed the math Regents exam would determine whether or not I would pass 9th grade math. So I was a little freaked out because I was really on the borderline. The only way I was going to pass 9th grade algebra was if I passed the Regents. Well, I lived in a neighborhood, I was in a community in New York City where failure was not something we took a lot of pride in. My father expected me to excel academically. I hung out with a group of girls who wore their A's and B's as a badge of honor. It was not acceptable in my neighborhood to get C's and D's. And so I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be so freaked out. I'm not going to be able to show my face in the neighborhood. Well, my father is originally from the South. He's from South Carolina. And in the 1950s, he moved to New York City. He was raised Southern Baptist, and he came to New York City through the whole bohemian lifestyle there. And he was searching and searching for himself, and he decided, oh, I like Buddhism, so he was going to be Buddhist for a while. And then he was searching and searching and searching some more, and then he found my mother. And then he kept searching and searching, and he said, you know what? I don't think I really know the answer to much in life. I think I'm agnostic. Well, by the time I was ready to take the math Regents in 1974, that man had become a full-blown atheist. Me? I prayed. I literally, no lie, got down on my knees in my bedroom, looked at the ceiling, and asked for a miracle. Yes, may I please pass the math Regents? Well, wouldn't you know, a few days later, when I'm sitting in the living room with my father watching the evening news, the newscaster says something that makes me rethink my father's position on religion. Apparently, someone has stolen all of the answers to all 21 Regents exams that were scheduled for that year, June of 1974. No, it wasn't me. Of the 21 exams, 9 were canceled. 1, 9th grade social studies. The other, 9th grade math. I had a great summer. I went on to the 10th grade with my peers, and we now had to take 10th grade geometry. Well, I failed. You see, math has been one of my threads. It's been one of my challenges, one of my struggles that has repeated itself throughout the course of my life. And I've been on the planet now for a solid 50 years. And so I remember thinking, great, you can run, but you can't hide. I got out of taking the Regents in the 9th grade, but I failed 10th grade math. So when all my friends went on to the 11th grade, I went with them, but they went on to take trigonometry, and I had to repeat 10th grade math. I remember when I was your age, as I was growing up, and I remember saying to my father, Dad, he was my primary caregiver, and I remember saying, you know, Dad, I'd really love to be an architect when I grow up. And my father said to me, Gina, that's great. You know, I grew up in New York City, also known as the Valley of Tall Buildings, and I was surrounded by all those beautiful buildings. And my father said, Gina, sure, that's great. You can be an architect, but you know, architects really need to know math. And I thought, really? You have to know math to be an architect? And I did some research, and sure enough, in order to design safe buildings that stay up and don't fall down for hundreds of years, you have to be able to do some measurement and some calculation. So I said, okay, well, never mind. Oh, I know. I want to be a psychologist. Okay, that's it. I want to be a psychologist. I thought that would be so cool. Sitting in a chair, listening to people's problems all day, helping them out. And my father said, Gina, that's great, but you know, in order to be a psychologist, the kind of psychologist that you want to be, a PhD, you're going to have to go all the way to the PhD level. You're going to have to know statistics, you're going to have to do research, and that involves math. And it's not that you're not good in math, you just have to apply yourself. He said the same thing to me when I wanted to be an architect. It's not that you can't be good in math, you just have to apply yourself. Well, by the time my senior year came around, I wasn't really interested in any profession. I wasn't interested in much of anything. I had a bad attitude. I started cutting classes, started hanging out with my friends who weren't cutting classes, who actually had free time, but I was cutting classes. Woohoo! And so while they prepared to graduate high school in June of 1977, I prepared for summer school. In the fall of that year, without too much pomp and circumstance, no cap and gown, no people cheering me on, no large audience watching me get my degree, my high school diploma, I went to the secretary in the administration office of Seward Park High School, and I picked up my diploma and I went home. My mother said, well, you don't have to go to school if you don't want to, but if you're living with me, you do have to work. So I had gone to community college, testing the waters, and something I should tell you, I was actually very young when I graduated from high school. I was only 16 years old. Despite my thread, my challenge, my struggle in math, I had actually skipped, back in the days when they were still skipping people, I had skipped the 8th grade. And because I'm born in December at the end of the year, I was 2 years chronologically behind everyone else. So all of my peers were 18, and I was 16, which is really kind of young to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. So I bounced around, signed up for community college because, why? They didn't have any standardized tests. Yay, I knew that I had a history. I had this thread of not performing well on standardized tests. I was tired of feeling stupid. I was tired of feeling embarrassed. So I cut classes, then my mother found me a job, and I worked for the city of New York, where my mother worked. I mean, she went out and found me a job. And it was kind of interesting. I was now 17 years old, and I was working in the Topographical Bureau. This is where all the engineers work, and they decide about all the public works in New York City. And so I had an interesting year. I was a secretary for them, and it was like working in a room full of uncles, and they really gave me a lot of good support. And they started to talk to me about the importance of going back to school. And I was really dreading it because I could not perform well on the math section of a standardized test. Well, my parents got divorced, and my father had a new girlfriend who was an accountant. And at night, she was getting her bachelor's degree in psychology, and she encouraged me. She was going to Hunter College, and she encouraged me to go back to school. And I said, Pat, I can't take the college entrance exam because I'm just going to fail miserably. She says, Gina, just give it a shot. So I took the college entrance exam for Hunter College, and I did fabulous on every part except the math. I failed miserably. So now, this started when I was 14, when I was in the 9th grade, and then in the 10th grade, and then the 11th grade, and then community college, and now, I'm 18 years old, and I still haven't learned the math. Well, something was really wonderful about Hunter College, because in their admissions letter to me, they said, Miss Greenlee, we believe you can do college-level work. Moreover, we believe that you can excel. You just need a little hand-holding and math. And guess what? We're going to give it to you. We welcome you into our 4-year college, but you will have to remediate math. And what that meant was I was going to have to spend a whole year taking math without credit. And you know what math do you think I was learning? Algebra. What else? What math do you think I was learning? Geometry. Okay? Trigonometry, all the math that I didn't get. But the wonderful people at the admissions office gave me that opportunity. I went on to get a bachelor's degree in English, and I went on to get a master's degree in education, where I aced graduate level statistics, research methods, and I graduated with honors. My father, may he rest in peace, was right. Yeah, I can do math. I can do math. I just have to apply myself. I'd like to invite you now to take your threads. Does everybody have their threads, says Miss Marianne Legler? Terrific. And as you take your threads off your bag, your beautiful ribbons, I want you to consider your threads. What are your threads? Our threads are not only challenges that repeat themselves, that take on pattern. They're also our strengths. Yes, I had a lot of problems in math. And even to this day, sometimes when I have to do math, I've got to use my fingers. I really do. That's not an exaggeration. For simple math, because I tend to get the numbers mixed up. I have to bust out some pencil and paper. I have to break out a calculator. but I can do math. I just have to take that extra step and apply myself. So one of my strengths, another one of my threads, is my ability to achieve whatever goal it is I set my mind on, to persevere and to let nothing get in my way. You don't have to help me, but don't get in my way. So take out your thread and think about, what are some of your threads? What are some of your challenges that have repeated themselves over the course of your young lives? Some of you are smiling. Some of you are thinking about some of your threads. And for some of you who are older like me, I'm sure you've remembered some of those patterns. But also, what are some of the strengths that you've used over time to influence? And oh, by the way, what are some of the strengths that you've kept hidden? Perhaps you've kept to yourself, you've kept secret, that you really haven't relied upon to get you to where you want to go. So today, as we think about making choices, as we think about how the choices we make today can influence our lives tomorrow, I'd like to invite you to think about your strengths. One of my challenges, I have a lot of strengths, but one of my challenges is that I tend to want to do everything alone. I forget that I have a lot of help. You know, there's a cliche, there's strength in numbers, and there really is. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I'd like to invite you to turn to the person on your left in each of your rows and connect your threads. Just turn to your left. Sitting in your row, turn to your left. And connect your thread. And if there's no one to your left, turn to your right. You got it. So everyone in the row, oh great, the back row, you got it going on. Oh yeah, there we go, there we go. Got it going on up there. Yes, that's what I want. Now a picture is starting to form. Yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, okay, so are we all connected? Are we all connected? Does anybody have a thread who is not connected to someone else? We're not in this alone. Are you connected? You're not. She's going to help you. Sometimes we need help. We need to reach out. And we shouldn't, it's important not to just sit, but to ask for help. To ask for help and not just assume it's going to come to you. I got help. I got help from the engineers, the city of New York. I got help from my father's girlfriend. I got help from the admissions office at Hunter College. I got help from the amazing professors. Okay, are we connected? Fabulous. Now I want you to just hold your thread, hold it up. Now we're one long, just you can remain seated, but hold it up. Up, I see some people, yeah, connect those threads. I want you to hold up your thread, and I want you to look around. Now, some of you obviously you came with people that you knew, that you're close to, but now I want you to expand your vision. I want you to look around. I want you to make a connection. In the same way you've made a connection with your thread, I want you to visually make a connection. Just turn around and see someone that perhaps you haven't noticed before. Maybe this is someone that's going to sit next to you in one of the workshops. Maybe this is someone whose path you're going to cross when you go to one of the booths. Maybe this is someone you saw out in the parking lot and you exchanged a smile but you didn't say anything. Make that connection and see how strong you are and that you're not alone. The last thing I'd like to invite you to do is we're connected row by row, but for example, I see the young lady with the purple. If you're at the end of a row, just connect. Oh, great, you all have connected. I want the entire string. I want us to have one long string. I want us to be one large community that represents, for all of our individual diversity, we are not alone. So let's get it all connected. Great. Excellent. So now we're all connected. So please hold your threads up. We're one community. As you go out through your day, remember your threads. Remember the things that challenge you, but remember the opportunities that you're also presented with. Woo! One more. You got an extra one? Okay, we have to be connected. Nah, I got it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I want you to slowly, we're all connected. You're connected to me. You're connected to, whoops, you're connected to the speaker. It's giving us feedback. But as I release the thread, and as the thread moves through your hands, I want to let it move through your hands. Because now you have all of this energy from this collective, and that is very powerful. Let it move through your hands, but also give it up to me. Give it up to me. And as it passes through your hands, think about the threads. Think about your choices. Let it pass through your hands.
We have to connect it all.
It's okay. There we go. Look at it. It's moving. It's moving. This is all of your energy. This is all of your power. Yeah. Ooh, I got some beads. Thank you. There you go. There you go. Look at what we represent. This is a sacred object. Remember, you are not in this alone. And remember, whatever choices you've made in your young life, if you're my age, or in your young life, if you are still a young person, if you failed a class, if you don't perform well on the FCATs, it's not a death sentence. You can make a different choice, just as I have. I'd like, in closing, for everyone to repeat after me. We're going to say it together 3 times. If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Again, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And finally, if you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Thank you.
Let's give one more round of applause for Gina Greenlee for that inspiring presentation. Thank you, Gina.
I always wanted affection from a male. I felt like I lacked the affection and the attention that I needed from a male figure in my life. And in order to get that, I would watch TV and I would see the music videos with the girls wearing like barely anything, and you know, they were talking about like the things that these girls are doing, and I thought, well, if that's what they have to do to get attention from a male, then obviously that's what I have to do.
Paige is a student that I met. I was just watching the video, and she said she found out she was pregnant at the end of the summer, and I think I met her in about the beginning of August. She called me, and she wanted someplace to live. She felt she needed to move out of her home, and she went to a maternity home. Solve House is a maternity home for girls that for one reason or the other, are not willing to stay in their home, or their parents don't want them to stay in their home. So Paige moved into that house, and she is a teen parent, which I'm happy to say. She'll tell you her story, but she is graduating this year, and she has a 2-month-old little girl.
I'm a teen mother. I found out I was pregnant at the end of the summer. I was 17. When I found out I was pregnant, my mother and father were extremely furious with me, and they were telling me to get an abortion, and that just wasn't an option for me. So I got kicked out of my house, and I had to move to a maternity home. It was a nice place to be at, but at the same time, when you're so young, you don't want to be kicked out of your house. That's not something you want to go through. You don't want to have to be on your own in any kind of way. You know, when you still have high school to finish, or things that you want to do with your life, you know, like go to college and be successful. And it's really hard when you don't have a place that's a steady home that you know you're going to be. I mean, it's just a transitional home. You're only there for when you're pregnant, and then afterwards you have to move on to the next place and the next place, because you can't afford a place of your own when you don't have an education, or you're not married, or, you know, have a good career. I was introduced into sex when I was about your guys' age. I was 13, by an older man. I thought, because I had not a really good relationship with my father, it was kind of non-existent, and I never had affection from him, and he always put me down and told me I wasn't worth anything. So I ran into a guy, and he was 22 years old. And I thought, oh yeah, this is perfect, because now I have somebody to like love me and show me affection. So I thought, okay, well, I can have sex. I'm gonna be with him forever. You know, I'm not worth it. He's the only guy who's ever going to like me, ever gonna love me, you know? And in that, it ended up getting found out. He went to jail, but the stain from that relationship followed me forever. I felt like I was a horrible person, and that if any guy was to like me after that, it was just because of sex. And after that, I always dated older guys. My baby's father's an older man. He's 26. And, you know, I know a lot of girls think, oh, well, if I have, you know, if I hook up with my boyfriend and I have a baby, he'll stay with me. You know, he'll be there for me. My baby's father wasn't there the whole pregnancy. He showed up when I was 8 months pregnant, saying he was gonna be there. That lasted for like a month. Then he disappeared again. I haven't spoke to him in 4 months. He hasn't seen his daughter, hasn't spoke to me. I've tried to get in contact with him. He hangs up the phone, blocked my phone, won't talk to any of my friends. He doesn't care. And I have to do it all by myself. Now I'm living back with my mom because I learned a lot, and I had to grow up a lot being pregnant. And luckily I did that, and I'm able to graduate high school. But I know a lot of girls that don't get to do that, because it's hard when you have a baby.
I know Paige pretty well, and we've talked a lot, but when you were 13 and your mother was trying to put some rules and curfews and keep you from dating older men, did you agree with her?
No, I thought I knew everything. I actually had friends and my mother, everybody telling me, you know, don't date these older men, don't have sex until you're married, don't have sex until you're ready. You're too young, you have no idea, you don't even know the consequences. I was already sexually active before anybody even taught me about sex. Because I thought that's what I had to do. And because that's what was shown on TV and everything, I was like, well, that's what everybody does. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't live in this generation. You don't know anything. But everything she's told me has came out to be true, and I wish I would have listened, because it's really affected my life in a lot of negative ways and made my life a lot harder.
One of the things that you shared with me was you were introduced into drugs and alcohol at a really young age. Could you talk to them about that?
Mm-hmm. You know, you guys are getting to that age where people are going to try to introduce you to drugs and alcohol. And you're going to think it's cool, like, oh, I'm invincible. I can get in a car with somebody who's drinking. I can not wear my seatbelt. I can smoke weed. It's not going to lead into anything else. I'll never do, you know, hardcore drugs or anything. I'll never do this, you know, if you just drink, or if you just smoke weed, or if you just smoke a cigarette, or, you know, it just adds up and adds up and adds up. And, oh, you know, if I have sex, I'll never get an STD. I'll never get pregnant. And it's not true. You will. All of those things will happen to you if you start doing those things that your parents tell you not to do, and you do those drugs. You know, it's just going to leave you on a spiraling path, a spiraling lifestyle. And that's how I met my baby's father. And it's really hard to stop those things. You don't want your life to end up the way so hard because of drugs, because they don't do anything positive for you. You know, they make you promiscuous and stuff, and you will either get an STD or pregnant.
Things happen. So you need to be flexible. Don't let that stop you from continuing your dreams and working toward that goal. You need to then figure out, how can I overcome this so I can still reach that goal?
So that about wraps it up for our inaugural Teen Summit. We are thrilled by the turnout that we have had today. Just couldn't be better as far as middle school students as well as their parents. We've had great information sessions, a fabulous keynote speaker with a real message about choices in life that we really wanted teens to hear. We had great sponsors. We had a great committee. So until next year, definitely we'll be back for Teen Summit #2.